May I have your attention, please? Thank you. We're going to start the annual town meeting for the town of the city of Peoria. The annual town meeting of the town of the city of Peoria is now called to order. Please rise for a moment of silent prayer or silent reflection. We'll follow with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So tonight is the town meeting, the annual town meeting, and those who live within the boundaries of the township of the city of Peoria are welcome to vote on any of the matters on the agenda. You have to reside within the township boundaries. And any of you are welcome to assist with motions and second it. And the city council are also considered electors this evening, as well as everybody in the audience. The first order of business would be the election of a moderator. Nominations are open for the position of moderator. Yes.
I would move to nominate Dr. Rita Ali as the moderator.
I have a motion to nominate Dr. Rita Ali as moderator. Is there a second to the motion? Great. Great. Are there any more nominations from the floor? Any more nominations from the floor? Great. Seeing none, the nominations are closed. All those in favor of electing Dr. Ali as moderator, raise your hands. All opposed, raise your hand. Great. Dr. Rita Ali has been elected moderator by majority vote. Now, if you could please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in, please. Do you swear to perform the position of moderator of the annual town meeting faithfully and impartially as required by law?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you.
Okay. We are at item number 4. The Statement of Financial Affairs of the Town of the City of Peoria with request to approve.
We will need a motion to receive and file and a town elector to second this item. May I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Riggenbach, Elector Riggenbach, seconded by Elector Kelly. I think this is a voice vote. So I would ask that all those electors that are in agreement signify by saying aye. Aye. Those who oppose signify by saying nay. Motion carries, Town Clerk.
Great. Item number 5. Shall the following advisory question of the public policy be placed on the ballot for submission to the voters for the November 8th, 2022 election? Should the state of Illinois adopt an independent citizens commission for the federal and state redistricting process that would be guided by principles established in Fair Maps initiatives?
I would ask that the individual elector that brought this motion to come forth and introduce yourself and give us a little background, please.
My name is Sheldon Schaefer. I reside at 4623 North Missouri in the township of Peoria. And Section 205 of the Township Code allows groups of citizens to bring to the annual township meeting questions of a broad scope of public policy to be voted on by the electors at the meeting. The concept of fair maps amendments has been initiated at the highest level, at the state level, several times, and it has yet to make it to a ballot. Townships have the ability, and I'm hoping that in this township we can have the ability to advance it at least to a ballot at the township level. And perhaps if other townships did similarly, as an advisory referendum, this doesn't carry the weight of any specific law, but it does send a message to our legislators in Springfield that we would like to see this kind of initiative taken at their level. And so we bring this forward to have it finally be on a ballot in November that the citizens of the Township of Peoria can vote on, to send a clear message to our legislators that this is not a dead issue. This is a live issue, and we feel strongly that it should move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Do any of the electors have any questions for Mr. Schaefer? Thank you very much. I will need a motion do you want to make the motion, Mr. Schaefer?
I will move that the following advisory question of public policy be placed on the ballot for submission to the voters in the November 28th, 2022 election. And as stated in the agenda, should the state of Illinois adopt an independent citizens commission for the federal and state redistricting process that would be guided by the principles established in Fair Maps initiatives.
Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by the young lady there in the glasses?
Can you state your name, please? Your last name, please? Thank you.
Is there any discussion or questions? We will need to vote by raising your hand. So those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand.
That's it, 9. Okay.
You got all of them counted?
Yes, we have
Okay.
28 affirmative votes.
Okay, those that oppose the motion, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
We're at item number 6, the approval of the minutes of the annual town meeting held on April 13th, 2021.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Riggenbach, Elector Riggenbach, seconded by Elector Ruckriegel. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, by saying nay. Motion carries. Town Clerk?
We are at citizens' opportunity to address the electors.
So we welcome any general comments. However, pursuant to Public Act 095-0761, any matter or proposal not set forth in the published agenda shall not be considered at the annual town meeting other than advising that the matter be considered at a special meeting of the electors at a later date. Any 15 or more registered voters residing in the township may request an agenda item for consideration by submitting in writing to the town clerk, signed by 15 town electors. Are there any citizens to address the electors? Please state your name, please.
Janet Roth with the Greater Peoria League of Women Voters, and we are beginning a study of the Peoria Township government. The League of Women Voters has played an important role in Peoria since 1924, and we've observed and studied townships several times previously. So we will be looking again at the township. We're especially interested in transparencies and efficiencies. We want an open examination of all sides of the issues, and we look forward to listening to anyone involved with the township.
Thank you, Ms. Rowe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens that would like to address the electors? Please come forth. Seeing none, I would request a motion to adjourn. Moved by Elector Euler, seconded by Elector Jackson. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. We stand adjourned. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.
Which one? Oh, it was Tim Riggin.
Is that who it was? I didn't know his face.
Okay, well, good evening. It's about 6:15 p.m. Tuesday, April the 12th, 2022. I'd like to call the meeting of the Peoria City Council to order. Also like to welcome WCBU and our listening audience at, I think we have, is it YouTube? Listening audience through YouTube and our cable channel 22. Madam Clerk, the council mics are open. Can you please call the roll?
Mayor Ali. Councilmember Allen.
Present.
Councilmember Sear. Councilmember Graham. Councilmember Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Jensen.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Euler. Councilmember Riggenbach.
Here.
Councilmember Ruckriegel.
Present.
And Councilmember Valpula.
Present.
You have a quorum present, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Please join me and stand for a moment of silent prayer or silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have several proclamations tonight. The first is related to Child Abuse Awareness Month. Whereas children are vital to Peoria's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being valued community members, all children deserve to have a safe, stable, nurturing home to foster their healthy growth and development. Whereas the effects of child abuse are felt by whole communities and need to be addressed by the entire community. Whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among the courts, social service agencies, schools, religious organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community, and private citizens. Whereas Child Abuse Prevention Month recognizes the importance of families and communities working together to strengthen families and prevent child abuse and neglect. Through this collaboration, prevention services and support help protect children and produce thriving families. And whereas we call upon all citizens to increase their participation in efforts to prevent child abuse, thereby strengthening the communities in which we live. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, do hereby recognize April 2022 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Peoria. I want to just add that being a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother, I'm hypersensitive to issues of children and child neglect or abuse issues. And, you know, over this short year that we've had already, our area, the city of Peoria as well as our region, has lost some very young children to child abuse and child neglect. And children are given to us as a gift from God, I believe, and too often they become victims of abuse. And as the proclamation said, we have to all be responsible to help to educate parents, extended family members, and to make sure that they know that there's many resources out here available to educate and provide support to families so that we can eliminate this problem that seems to occur far too often in our community. The second proclamation is National Safety Zone Awareness Week, and I would ask that Director Rick Powers, Director of our Public Works, and Cy Maroon, Superintendent of Operations, and he's the Assistant Director, if you would come forth. Oh, you're right there. Okay. Whereas National Work Zone Awareness Week is an annual spring campaign held at the start of construction season to encourage safe driving through the streets, roads, and highway work zones. The theme for the 2022 National Work Zone Awareness Week is Work Zones Are a Sign to Slow Down. And whereas National Work Zone Awareness Week is a way to raise public awareness for work zones and for those who work in them. Motorists are encouraged to slow to posted speed limits, eliminate distractions while driving, and be watchful for roadway workers, their equipment, and vehicles on the side of the road in work zones. And whereas according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, in 2019 there were 762 fatal crashes in U.S. work zones, up from 521 in 2010. On average, more than 2 persons per day were killed in work zones in 2019. And whereas the City of Peoria Public Works Department strives to keep employees, community members, and visitors safe during road and street repairs, and whereas National Work Zone Awareness Week 2022 is taking place April 11th through the 15th, that's this week, and is a way to raise public awareness of work zone hazards. Whereas Go Orange Day takes place on Wednesday, April the 13th, providing an opportunity to unite in wearing orange, to show support for the men and women who work tirelessly to support our roads, to support our road safety. And whereas a moment of silence will be held Friday, April the 15th, to honor the lives lost in work zones. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, do hereby acknowledge April 11th through 15th as National Work Zone Awareness Week.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sure.
Actually, this is a very timely topic, not necessarily going from child abuse to it made me think, though, of being a parent and the people that are in work zones every day that is their office, that are fathers, mothers that are going home to children, that we oftentimes don't realize just what we're doing when we're going past those barrels that we all call for. At this time of year, this is when they come out. We go from fighting snow to building and repairing roads. And people go through them sometimes believing they know where they are and what's going on. But if you're in that zone and you're working and you feel that wind and you hear those cars, it takes on a whole different appearance of what is really going on around you and how quickly a life can end. Not just the people in the cars because of slowing down or not slowing down or hitting each other, but the actual workers that are in those zones. And operations, which is another reason I never leave home without Cy anyways. I pretty much depend him on everything, but operations and public works is our backbone. And those are the trucks that you see every day with people behind them filling potholes and traffic often going behind the trail vehicle and diving in between, and there's one of our workers with a shovel. Also, Cy is our Central Region APWA sitting president this year, so I think it's also fitting he offers a few words, so I don't want to say too much more. But just about everything we do in public works in one way or another can end up in a work zone, either in-house or the millions of dollars that we spend on the community improvement plan. I'm still at DOT. But those dollars go out and translate to construction sites. And there are several of those that are going to be taking place in Peoria this year. So we would indulge everyone that not only wear orange on Wednesday, but be cognizant throughout this construction year and every construction year and any time you see that going on, that there's likely someone working there. When you go across the Baker Bridge, in fact, this week it'll be orange all week. So again, thank you for the recognition. I would like to ask Cy to say a few words because he's our point man when it comes to those points, and keeping his staff safe is what I'm most concerned about in public works.
Superintendent?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Council, for having us down tonight for this. This is a very important message that needs to go out to the traveling public and all those that work in work zones. I just wanted to mention, there was a lot said in the proclamation. We thank you for the proclamation to help kick this week off and bring awareness to something that is so critically important for our employees to be able to go home to their families on a daily basis. Work zones, just if I can just say it in plain terms, it's no joke. It's no joke what we're dealing with out there with the traveling public right now. It's increased the amount of opportunities for accidents, and we have people in work zones daily. We are not the only ones with work zones. There's utility companies out there. There's other organizations and construction companies that are out there working in work zones. We have to be aware of that. It's so critical that we are aware. I can't stress it enough because of the fact that the numbers that the mayor just read off in fatalities and accidents, it's true, they're out there. We actually have accidents in Peoria, but we've been very fortunate to limit the accidents to just the vehicles so far. We've done a really good job of keeping our employees safe. But accidents do happen, and they have happened here already this season. This past month to kick off the season of construction. So we are just looking forward to getting through another year safely. We ask that all motorists really tend to what you see and slow down. That's the key, is slow down. And we appreciate that and the time that you give us to get this message out. And like I said, we just want to see our folks go home to their families safely every night. And I want to thank you very much for this time.
Thank you, gentlemen. Our next proclamation is in recognizing National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. And we have our interim Emergency Communications Center Manager, Mr. Brandon Blaney. Also present are ECC supervisors, Tracy Sandel, Tom Murfin, Tisha Anderson. If you guys can Where are you? Can you come up too? We want to see you too. Not present, yeah. Not present are Corey Struby, Crystal Rican, and Demarius Reddick. And, you know, we get emails from them on a daily basis, and they help us to keep us informed about what's going on. And sometimes those emails come between 5:30 a.m. and 6 a.m., so they burn the midnight oil, as I would say. So, whereas emergencies can occur at any time that requires police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from people who telephone the City of Peoria Emergency Communications Center. Whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our community members have with emergency services. Whereas public safety communicators are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities via radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety. And whereas the public safety communicators of the City of Peoria Emergency Communications Center have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. Whereas in 2021, our colleagues in the ECC answered 106,434 calls to 911, 189,877 non-emergency calls, and 208 texts to 911 calls. Whew, wow. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, do hereby thank our public safety telecommunicators and recognize April 10th through the 16th as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Peoria. Manager Blaney.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm humbled to be able to accept such a distinguished honor, not only for those of us that are currently serving the community members of Peoria, but for all those that served before us. The Peoria Emergency Communications Center has a long history, having dispatched services since the 1950s. Since that time, the department has met the changing needs of our community and continues to evolve to use the technological advances to serve our colleagues in the community. While the technology has changed over the last 7 decades, the main objective of our telecommunicators has stayed the same: to serve and protect both the residents of Peoria and its police, fire, and EMS responders. We like to say we are Peoria's first responders. We are the calm voice in the darkness. We never know what will be on the other end of a phone when we answer that 911 call, but what we do know is that person will be in distress. Most often the caller is in a panic, and it is one of the worst moments of their life. It is our duty to stay calm under pressure so that we can gather the necessary information and disseminate it in a clear and concise manner for the other first responders. I'd like to recognize our 6 supervisors, some of whom were able to attend, as well as our 22 telecommunicators who are all working right now. I'd like to, our department is small but mighty, and as the mayor stated, we answered 296,311 total phone calls last year, as well as dispatched 165,810 calls for service. The Peoria Emergency Communications Center continues to be a leader in the 911 industry. None of this would be possible without their hard work and dedication, both past and present. Thank you.
Amazing work. Thank you all. Thank you. Our next proclamation focuses on Education Day USA. I'd like to welcome Rabbi Eli Langsam and his son, Levi Langsam. Mr. Levi turned 13 today. It's his bar mitzvah day. Whereas excellence in education is vital to the success of our city and in Peoria, we seek to instill each child and adolescent with a good education. And whereas by preparing our students for the responsibilities and opportunities of the future, education develops the intellect through lessons on literacy, math, and science. And whereas the Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, dedicated his life to the betterment of mankind and tirelessly advocated for a better education for all Americans. Whereas the Rebbe taught that education should not be limited to the acquisition of knowledge and preparation for a career, but also on character building, with emphasis on universal moral and ethical values that are the basis of any peaceful, civilized society. And whereas the United States Congress has established Education and Sharing Day, USA, as an annual national day to commemorate the Rebbe's achievements, lessons, and the vision he set forth that is relevant to all of us today. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, do hereby recognize Education and Sharing Day in Peoria.
Thank you, Mayor. We are honored that the Mayor joined mayors and governors around the country, as well as the President of the United States, in proclaiming today Education Day USA. Today marks 120th birthday of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the leader of world Jewry, and may I add, of all mankind. The Rebbe's love and care for every single person, regardless of race, color, and creed, is legendary. The Rebbe focused on the potential of every person and who they can actually become. The Rebbe teaches us that the way to overcome hatred, bigotry, and violence is through education. And that is why the Rebbe was a great advocate for the moment of silence in public schools, which we are blessed is a law in Illinois. And finally, when the CNN news reporter asked the Rebbe, "What is your message to the world?" the Rebbe responded, "Add in acts of goodness and kindness to make the world a better place and bring about the coming of the Messiah." So let's all add in some acts of goodness and kindness in honor of the Rebbe's 120th birthday and add more light in the world so we can usher in a time of peace and tranquility. And I will demonstrate by doing an act of kindness myself at this moment. I also want to take this moment to acknowledge that on this very day of the Rebbe's birthday is also my son Levi, as the mayor mentioned before, his bar mitzvah. So today he becomes a man, and we want to welcome him into the team of men in Jewish tradition. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Happy birthday. Our final proclamation is recognizing Illinois Community College Month. I'd like to invite Dr. Sheila Quirk-Bailey, President of ICC, and Kim Armstrong, Vice President of Marketing and Institutional Advancement at Illinois Central College, my former colleagues. Whereas community colleges provide opportunities for people to change their lives through the power of education, and this year, Illinois Central College joins 47 other community colleges throughout the state and hundreds more across the country in celebrating April as National Community College Month, which aims to improve awareness of the economic, academic, and equity advantages of attending community colleges and to bust longtime stigmas wrongly associated with public two-year colleges. And whereas Illinois Central College guarantees access to high-quality, affordable education for all people and prepares students to enter the workforce or to transfer to a four-year college or university while serving demographically and socioeconomically diverse student populations. Whereas according to the Illinois Community College Board, community colleges in Illinois educate 60% of the students enrolled in Illinois public higher education, and nearly 74% of Illinois employers have hired a community college graduate. Community colleges are also a major economic driver, with the 48 community colleges in Illinois employing over 32,000 staff members with a total payroll of $1.3 billion. And whereas Illinois Central College partners with regional employers to provide high-demand training programs to bridge critical workforce gaps, partners with community organizations to provide students with wraparound support services, and partners with Illinois Community College Board as the statewide lead college of the Illinois Workforce Equity Initiative program. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, do hereby recognize and acknowledge April 2022 as Illinois Central College Month. Greg Bailey.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor Ali and Council. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of Illinois Central College and our entire team, we truly appreciate this proclamation and acknowledgement. Illinois Central College exists to serve this community, its employers, and most importantly, our uncredentialed residents. We understand that only 40% of our regional adults have a credential past high school, while nearly 65% of the available jobs require such a credential. Our goal is to credential those adults. ICC continues to be the driving force behind workforce development in our region. For example, we credential over 600 annual graduates in health careers, filling vital roles in our hospital systems here in Peoria. We served over 461 individuals of poverty, the majority of which were African American, over the last 2 years through the Workforce Equity Initiative. They completed at 3 times the natural rate, earning themselves jobs paying 30% above the regional living wage. And every year, we serve and save our local recent high school graduates tens of thousands of dollars as they launch their bachelor's degree with their educational journey at ICC and then transfer on to their preferred university, including our own Bradley. We appreciate the City of Peoria as a strong partner in our effort to change lives, along with our other incredible partners like Peoria Public Schools, the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council, our regional chambers, labor unions, community-based organizations, the CEO Council, the Regional Workforce Alliance, and our regional employers. Together, we can ensure a brighter future for Peoria and our region. We look forward to our continuing partnership with the city and Peoria Public Schools and over 40 other partners on the Promise Neighborhood opportunity as we seek to bring $30 million to this community to transform the 61605 area. At ICC, we understand that when individuals earn credentials with labor market value, it not only changes the trajectory of their life, but also the trajectory of their families' lives, all while expanding the workforce, strengthening our employers, and increasing our regional economic viability. Thank you again, Dr. Mayor Ali and Council, for being our partners in changing lives.
Thank you for your leadership and partnership. Madam Clerk,
We are at the minutes.
Councilman Euler.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I move to approve the minutes of the joint City Council and Town Board meeting held on March 22nd, 2022 as printed.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Velpula. Any questions, comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk? I'm sorry, there you go.
We have one town board item. It's 22-108, a request from the town officials to approve the March 2022 actual expenditures and to approve the April 2022 anticipated expenditures for the town of the City of Peoria.
Can I get a motion to approve? Moved by Councilman Rodrigo, seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any comments or questions? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at the consent agenda. 22-109 is a communication from the Mayor and Corporation Council with a request to approve the declaration of local state of emergency. 22-110 is a communication with a request from the CDBG Public Services Commission to approve the 2023 CDBG Public Service application. 22-111 is a communication with a request to approve the sole source purchase for maintenance and component repairs for the Vector jet truck from the manufacturer Co. Equipment in the amount not to exceed $24,966.51. 22-112 is a communication with a request to accept the low bid of Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $273,047 and approve a contract for the Buckthorn Wake reconstruction with an additional authorization of $27,304.70 for contingencies, for a total award of $300,051.70. 22-113 is a communication with a request to accept the low bid of Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $387,910.38 and approve a contract for the Villa Lake Drive and Wildlife Drive reconstruction with an additional authorization of $38,791.04 for contingencies, for a total award of $426,701.42. 22-114 is a communication with a request to approve contracts for the 2022 City of Peoria and Peoria County Trustee Vacant Lot Mowing Program and award contracts in the total amount not to exceed $531,755.10. 22-115 is a communication with a request to approve contracts for the 2022 Facilities, Boulevards, and Rights-of-Way Mowing Program and award contracts in the total amount not to exceed $117,630. 22-116 is a communication with a request to approve the site application for a Class 1 Assembly Hall Stadium liquor license with the retail sale of alcohol at the Exposition Gardens, Inc., doing business as Expo Gardens, 1601 West Northmore Road, with recommendation from the Liquor Commission to approve. 22-117 is an appointment by Mayor Ali to the Housing Commission with a request to concur of Sean Hayes. 22-118 is a communication from the City Manager and Finance Director Comptroller with a request to receive and file the month ended February 28, 2022 unaudited financial report. And that concludes our consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any items to remove from consent? Councilmember Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 22-116.
Okay. Councilmember Jackson?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 22-114 and item 22-115.
Councilmember Seer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 22-118, please.
Okay, I think that got pulled by Jackson.
She did? Oh, okay, sorry. No, she had.
Hey, you didn't have 118? What'd you have?
22-114 and 22-115.
115.
Yes.
Thank you. I got you, Councilman Seer, for 118.
Thank you.
Are there any other items to pull? Can I get a motion to approve the remaining items? Moved by Councilmember Seer, seconded by Councilmember Euler. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
22-114 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request to approve contracts for the 2022 City of Peoria and Peoria County Trustee Vacant Lot Mowing Program and award contracts in the total amount not to exceed $531,755.10.
Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, first of all, I just want to commend all of the contractors who have done the work in the past and on such a big job. But I just want to make a few comments. I do plan to support these two items. I just would like to bring forth an observation. While they work hard and do an excellent job with so many vacant lots, I had conversations with the community development director just about concerns with the mowing. Oftentimes the mowing's done, but the cleanup afterwards is left. And I have gotten numerous complaints from residents. So just moving forward, if we could make sure that after the mowing's done, that the contractors would be so gracious to clean up those areas, because we have numerous vacant lots, especially within the first district, and I get the brunt of a lot of phone calls. So just an observation moving forward.
Thank you. Can you pass that on, Mr. Manager? Okay.
With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 22-114.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any other discussion? Please cast your ballots. Oh, sorry. Didn't see your light. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just, perhaps I missed this in our budget discussions or whatever. Are we now cutting back at our old length of grass, or are we still on the higher length?
I believe the height is now 6 inches, Counselor. You mean the height at which we're cut, and approximately 18 mows per season.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
22-115 is a communication with a request to approve contracts for the 2022 Facilities, Boulevards, and Right-of-Way Mowing Program and award contracts in the total amount not to exceed $117,630.
Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to reiterate my previous concern, and I do have one question for Public Works Director Powers with regards to the 18 mows per season. Does that change if we have heavy rain seasons? Because I have noticed in the past where we have had lawns that I've seen grass that's been well over 5 or 6 inches.
Yes, Counselor, it'll change with rain. I mean, we go as frequently as we can to stay within 18. If it goes beyond that, we'll be back here asking for more to ask for additional mows. The contracts, the way they read, are just not to exceed 18 mows. We are not going to let the lots go. Again, there's between 850 and 900 lots. And if we were to let that go, it would be an urban forest.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
With that, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 22-115.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Reckriegel. Discussion, Councilmember Euler.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'll be abstaining from this item due to a current contractual obligation with one of the contractors. Thank you.
Noted, thank you. Any other discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with one abstention. Euler. Madam Clerk?
22-116 is a communication with a request to approve the site application for a Class 1 Assembly Hall Stadium liquor license with the retail sale of alcohol at the Exposition Gardens, Inc., doing business as Expo Gardens, 1601 West Northmore Road, with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to approve.
Councilmember Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to start off by saying I think this is a great innovative thinking of the Expo Gardens Board to increase the utility at the facility. But I do have just some concerns whenever we're talking about liquor licensing. And Corporation Counsel, I think probably this is something I'll end up asking to be deferred for 2 weeks, but I'm curious how this compares to what we did at Louisville Slugger, because I remember there was quite a bit of discussion about that. I think they have an 11 o'clock cutoff time, and I understand, with the fair, there could be some exceptions with something like this, but if you could, and if you're not prepared to answer that, like I said, I'm prepared to defer this as well, but how can we limit it so it doesn't go beyond a certain time? Is there a limit to the number of outdoor events that can be held? And specifically, this is in the communication that some of the board members are going to be working as bartenders, so how do we ensure that the proper training is commensurated for those that will be serving the alcohol?
Sure. Thank you, Councilman. I can tell you that for Class I license holders, Bradley has one, the Peoria Civic Center has one, the Riverfront Museum has one, and Louisville Slugger, as you mentioned, also has one. I did not have the opportunity to look to see if there are any specific limitations on hours other than what is listed in the license. So if you would like us to report back on any specific restrictions for those other Class I licenses, we'd be happy to.
I think that would be appropriate because we all know when we do the site approval, that does grandfather it in. So with respect to the petitioner, I would ask for a 2-week deferral.
Is there a second to that? Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any other discussion? Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to give privilege of the floor to Executive Committee board members of Expo Gardens, Rob Murphy and Erica Ebenroth, if they could come to the mic and just talk a little bit about why they are applying for this liquor license and maybe address some of the anxiety around the time frame of the license.
Mr. Murphy?
Good evening. Thank you, Councilman Allen. Rob Murphy with Expo Gardens. Right now we're going through temporary licenses. There is a statute for an H1 license for the fair. It's a 9-day temp license, and it's the one of its kind. We generally carry that one till 1 a.m. The rest of the time we pulled temporary liquor licenses of 1 or 2 days in nature. We generally request those till about midnight. In certain circumstances, we've worked with the liquor investigator and ended early. We work with them very, very, very well. In this case, our goal is just to be able to offer the service to our renters, and we have gotten a new rash of renters through the pandemic that have found our facility when others weren't available, new events to the area. When these folks come in, right now we have to say we have to go through the approval process, causes some to walk away. Sometimes they're willing to wait, but we're just looking for ending the paperwork burden that we're putting on everybody on the temp licenses, and then being able to offer our customers options in Peoria.
Are there any questions for Mr. Murphy?
As far as training, both of us have gone through the Bassett certification prior to application, and our core board members, we worked with PACE during the fair this past year to serve alcohol similar to the Riverfront. I believe the city requirement is 110 days from employment. It's probably a bit of a loophole for Bassett on the volunteers, but our core board members that'll be serving will likely also do the Bassett certification. In this case, our names were on the application, so we felt it prudent to go ahead and do that certification in advance of the site approval meeting.
Councilmember Seer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Does the deferral create a problem for you guys?
It's not unsurmountable. We don't have anything right away that's planned. We'll be able to work with it.
Any other questions?
I just think that if we are going to consider the deferral, consider the remarks that they are making tonight, and that is they would like this liquor license to be till 1 a.m. because they want to have flexibility. They want to be able to have the option to tell people who are wanting to host events there that they can have it till 1, but also, as Mr. Murphy has indicated, if they get a phone call or an email ahead of time letting them know that maybe a certain group could be potentially problematic, they could scale it back to 11 or 12, which you have done in the past, which you let me know. So this is a group that has had no issues. They got fully supported by the Peoria Police Department. They were unanimously supported by the Liquor Commission. And so, again, if we're going to entertain a 2-week deferral, let's remember, what are we really considering here? Because I think we need to be careful about the restrictions that we are putting on venues that are looking to not only rebound from the pandemic, but we're not trying to go back to normal. We're trying to go to the new normal and take venues to the next level in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have another question for you, Mr. Murphy. When you have an event, you're leasing the space, renting the space to someone, and they want to have a cash bar. Is that cash bar provided by you only, or are they able to?
It's only
right?
It's only provided by us. On the temporary licenses, it's a nonprofit, and that's how we get into it, and Pace gets into it with the temporary licenses, and we're going to continue that. It'll be provided by Expo as a revenue stream for us moving forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the motion is to defer for 2 weeks, and that was seconded. Any other discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 1 nay. Allen. Clerk?
2-118 is a communication with a request to receive and file the month ended February 28, 2022 unaudited financial report.
Councilmember Seer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Creddy, thank you for being here. You answered a lot of my questions yesterday, but I just want to go public with a few of those questions. Basically, most of my question is going to be like 2 or 3, maybe 4, has to do with your report, comparing your report from last month, the March 8 to April 12 of this month. Which the first question, and I apologize, I'm sure my colleagues probably don't have all those reports in front of them, but on page 2, when you talked about the current year expenditures, last month, our expenditures were down over $536,000. This month, they're over $280,000, so it's like a $800,000 swing. Can you explain that, please?
Absolutely, Councilman Seer. The month of February, which is the report that you have in front of you, did have a number of one-time expenditures in them that we did not have in the previous fiscal year. So when you're looking at the report, we have to keep that in context that those will not be occurring in future months. I want to point out that I think the important piece with this is that from a general fund standpoint, we're still 11% of what our budget is for the year. So we're still about 5% below our budget target on expenditures. So we're still trending in the right direction, but obviously it is a good point to bring up that, you know, those month-to-month swings, we may see some of those month-to-month comparisons have some of the expenditures grow based off of how our expenditures fall in those months.
My next question has to do with the next 3 graphs, which are the home rule sales tax, the state sales tax, the income tax revenues. Can you explain to us and to our constituent how these graphs really works?
So the graphs in front of you, because of how we obviously handle our accounting for things like home rule sales tax as well as our state sales tax, there is a 3-month lag
of when we actually account for those receipts. So the February receipts that we actually received were booked back into the month of November for 2021. So the reports in front of you is my attempt to show you somewhat on a cash basis that comparison so that you can kind of see those months. Because how we kind of do our financial reporting, you may or may not see those because they kind of bridge that into that fiscal year. And so I wanted to make sure that council still kind of gets this cash, this report, or these three charts on that cash basis so you have a comparison.
Thank you very much. Next question has to do with the state sources in the revenue section of it. Next page, where last month we have total revenues over almost $4 million, $3.9 million, where this month they're at 2.7. So again, that's a $1.2 million swing. Can you explain that one, please?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a situation where obviously I've had a tremendous amount of turnover in my department, and so the report that you had in front of you had booked the January collections or the October receipts on the report, so they showed up on your report last month. We've obviously now corrected that, so the money, the 2.7 is now not including that state sales tax.
And last question on the budget. Let's have the city manager question there. 49% of his budget's been spent already. Can you comment on that one?
So you're talking about the city manager's budget? Yes. So that was the 2011 number. Last year, we offered a business recovery loan program that was very heavily front-loaded in the months of January and February. That obviously is not occurring this year at this point. So as of right now, the city manager's budget is at 12% of their budget. So it's below that target of 16%.
Thank you very much for your answers. Now, I just got a comment, Mr. Manager and Mr. Craddy. Maybe I'd love for both of you guys to get together. Timing-wise, I just had a coffee with your councilman last Saturday, and this question came up a few times, actually. And we all know that people are still upset about a fee is a tax and a tax is a tax. But I got a lot of questions last Saturday about stormwater, utility fee, and the CIP. Now, you do have a line item in the budget, last page, about, I believe, the stormwater utility, okay? But we don't have a line item anywhere for the CIP. The question was really from my constituent, it was, okay, well, you guys come up with these budgets, CIP and stormwater, but we don't have any master project plan where we can monitor our progress. Would that be possible to have that so that on a monthly basis or maybe quarterly basis, we can report to our constituent the progress we're making with the CIP and with the stormwater utility fee? Would that be possible?
Yes.
Thank you very much. With this, Madam Mayor, I move to approve.
Observations. Is there a second to that? Seconded by Councilmember Velpula. And continued discussion, Councilmember Ruckriegel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just to piggyback on Councilman Sears' questions, very good and very timely. With us, really, this report only being 2 months in, and I know as we're starting to see estimates come forward on projects, both in the private sector and I'm going to assume here in our public sector too, that we're seeing an increase both in materials and also in labor costs at this point. Do we have a forecast on those projects, or can we get an updated forecast on what the project cost and where we anticipate those new costs will come in at? Would be one. And two, and I guess this may be for the city manager, is can we get an updated list of those capital projects so that if we run out of budgeted money based on those new forecasted expenses as they come in what lineup those are going to be coming and what projects would be postponed, maybe rolled into the next year?
We'll be happy to put that together for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mayor Ali. I just wanted to just make a quick comment and thank you for this new format of these reports. It is so helpful to have this information in the way that you have it broken down and compared to prior years. as well as the analysis of our major revenue sources each month. I mean, this is very, very helpful, so I appreciate it. And just wanted to thank you, Director, for doing these reports the way now that you're doing them. Thank you.
I agree. Monthly reports, these are fantastic. Thank you. Very helpful. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to second Councilwoman Jensen's comments on the clarity of the reports. They're just much easier. So thank you. I was going to bring this up under new business, but I guess we're on the subject. So I'm wondering how much of the detail of this is available if you dig down through our website, especially when it comes to CIP. I think all of us get questions about, well, what about this road or whatever? Well, I know it's on the list, but I don't know where it is on the list, that sort of thing, and plus perhaps some other expenses. I know there would be some work involved, but I'm wondering if we could move into that so that a constituent can go into our site, get to capital projects or whatever, dig down, find out what's going to happen with Pioneer Parkway. When is that, that sort of thing. Is that a big task, or is that something we can, once in, we can update fairly easily?
So the CIP itself is included in the budget document. Obviously, to the other counselor's point, there is not necessarily an update that occurs to that on the website until we do the capital improvement plan for the next year. It's obviously something I can work with the city manager on kind of how that would look and how we would get that updated. So we can report back to you on what that would look like.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. I think in this day and age, as people can drill down through websites, why that might be a really good thing to provide to our citizens. Thank you. Thank you,
Kelly,
Madam.
I just want to understand a little bit more. Are you looking for kind of a dashboard that shows the progress of the various projects, or are you looking at it from a monetary, or both?
Well, I think the project name, or like Pioneer Parkway, would be the most important data point that you could drill down to. Attendant data on that particular project, the more we can get, the merrier. But even at a high level, just to find out that this is on the schedule and where it is on the schedule.
The progress of a project. Then. Okay.
Before we even get to progress, just here's what we're doing right now, and this is what we expect to do in June, and this is where we expect to be in August, and then progress would also be good. That would be a further improvement. Dollars would be a further improvement, but I don't know what sort of expense I'm really talking about when I'm first to set it up and then secondly to maintain it. So.
Okay. I would expect there's some software that can help with that.
There's always software that can help, but sometimes it's rather costly to implement or to maintain.
If I could, Director Powers has come in, and I think he can share some information. Most of the management and oversight of the capital budget is the responsibility of Public Works, not necessarily the finance director. So, Director Powers, maybe if you could talk a little bit about what we're working on right now with the capital plan.
Sure. If I heard the finance director correctly, he was saying that the CIP is generally a relatively static document relative to spending, budget, and so on, unless we have to adjust during the course of design or whatever the case might be, but it's adopted with the budget. However, to your point, Counselor, we are at this moment actually plotting each project in a GIS layer that's titled CIP. And it will be a dot on a map. You click on the dot, it will tell you the scope of the project, the budgeted amount, the source, I believe, of the revenue, and expected start and completion date. We're not developing it, we have GIS. We're actually plotting it now, so this is not that costly. So that information should be available to the public soon, because it will be a public facing. That's our plan. So I think that answers your question. If I heard you correctly, I was in 404, sorry.
Yes, it does, and thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Good, thank you. We have a motion on the floor to receive and file the unaudited financial report. If there's no more discussion, please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at first readings. 22-119 is a communication with a request to receive and file a first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 18, Article 4, subsections 97 and 103 of the Code of the City of Peoria regarding video gaming fees.
Council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As an overview of this proposed ordinance amendment, currently for video gaming terminals, they are licensed both to the terminal operators and to the local establishment. And the fee breakdown for that is each terminal has a fee of $500, and that is split equally between the local establishment and the terminal operators. The terminal operators then pay an additional $1,000 on each video gaming terminal. So currently, under that particular ordinance, that would result in about $474,000 in revenue to the city in just the licensing fees. That's not our share of the video gaming tax, that's simply the licensing fees. In December, however, the legislature made a change to the Video Gaming Act that made it clear that all video gaming fees have to be shared equally between the terminal operators and the local establishments. To be honest, the bill wasn't drafted the best, and we have talked to both the Gaming Board and the Municipal League about how to proceed because it preempted home rule authority on one part but not on another. So based on our conversations, what we're proposing is an amendment to the ordinance that will keep the $500 annual registration fee per video gaming machine to be split equally between the local establishment and the gaming operator, and then an additional $500 annual flat registration fee for both the local establishment and the terminal operators. Unfortunately, if we keep that fee structure at $500, it will result in licensing revenue loss of about $256,000. So your total revenue from licensing would go from around $474,000 to $218,000. Now, there's no reason that $500 fee, the Home Rule Authority, was preserved. It could certainly be higher per video gaming terminal, but keep in mind, whatever you set that fee at does have to be split equally between the local establishment and the video gaming terminal operators.
Questions? Councilwoman Jensen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not happy about this. I understand what the law says, but it really seems to be screwing, the local business owner. So I would rather that we didn't have to do this. My question is, do you know if there's any movement with the Illinois Municipal League and other home rule municipalities to get this changed or amended so that home rule municipalities so the equal requirement doesn't apply to them?
I will say the answer to that is no, unless the city manager knows of something different. And the model ordinance that the Municipal League put out did, in fact, stay with that $500 fee as we're proposing.
It's just not, it's not fair to the little guy. So I'd rather that we didn't have to do this. I don't know what are other municipalities moving forward with this? Are they waiting to see? Do you know?
To our knowledge, Peoria was one of the only communities that actually had the terminal operators paying that additional $1,000 per terminal fee. So some other communities have not had to revise their ordinances because they did not have a separate licensing fee for both the establishments and the operators. They have, to the extent they had licensing, they have taken action to make sure the fee is split equally.
And is it effective now, this statute?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Rodrigo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you for your I guess, clarification on one of the questions I was going to ask is what does this look like in other communities? And I guess after hearing just that last piece, I got to say, I'm kind of amazed that in all of the things that are happening right now in our state, coming out of COVID, and all of the big issues that we have, that I was assuming that this was an issue that was maybe affecting other communities, but really it looks like that this is more of a localized issue that was handled at the state. I well followed Councilmember Jensen's comments that I don't quite understand where this is coming from, and the only guy who gets hurt on this, or the only business that get hurt, are our small businesses, the ones that have weathered the storm through the pandemic. And to be able to arbitrarily in a December decision, I'd love to know the rationale for it. And what is even stranger is the fact that they put in there or sort of the non-home rule piece. And if I'm hearing you right, there aren't a lot of non-home rule municipalities that even have this fee, correct?
There are non-home rule communities that have this fee. There was a question, and if you recall a couple years ago, we actually did an amendment to this section and had a discussion about how the video gaming fees were split, because we know that for many years, we think it was sort of an unspoken rule between the video gaming operators and the local establishments that they were sharing this fee. Then the gaming board came out a few years ago and said that they determined that that was an illegal inducement. So we know that part of the reason that they codified the fee split was because of this gaming board decision, but we agree the only entity in this that seems to be harmed is the local establishment, which is why for conversation purposes we left that fee at a $500 range.
I can appreciate that for the example. I've got a real hard time being able to, especially with everything that is happening in not only our local economy, but in the national economy, what's going to be forecasting here is putting one more fee on the business owner. And I get that this is being done to us. I'm really, I'll stop, but I'm amazed that this is what rises to the importance in Springfield. In a way, it's an unfunded mandate, only of a different type. Can we get what other communities are charging and other similar sized communities to Peoria for our next meeting so that we can have that as an example as we go and consider this proposal?
Sure, we'll be happy to bring that back.
Great, thank you.
Do you want to defer then?
It's a first reading.
It's receive and file, you're right. Thank you. Any other, Councilmember Jensen?
I guess I would also like us to see if there's, what the cost would be if we do end up having to change this, if we could work with the numbers. I mean, I think by doing this, we're this $500 fee that's proposed that local establishments are now going to have to pay, is a huge hit for them. Is there a way to come back with some other proposals that might be less costly to them and then show us what that would be with regards to revenue loss?
Sure, we can absolutely do that, but just recall whatever fee we set has to be split equally.
Right.
So if you set it at $250, then it will be split at $125 and $125. There's some additional information that I think would be helpful, and we can share that before this comes back again, is on the gaming board's website, the monthly reports for the city with all of our licensed establishments and the number of total video gaming terminals we have licensed in the city are publicly available. And we will tell you that there are some that are making a minor amount of per terminal income, that they maybe have one machine. There are others that have net terminal income that is quite substantial, and it's in the six figures. So just in Peoria, in the month of February, the net terminal income from 67 establishments that have about 330 video gaming terminals, and I had Director Craddy check my math because I was a little surprised, it was $1.6 million.
As a follow-up to that, and that information would be helpful, is there a way that we could make the fee based on the amount of revenue they're generating? And make that equal, make it the same for operators and local establishments, but have it be a sliding scale based on the amount of money they're bringing in or they're making from it?
I would want to talk to Director Craddy about that, because thinking about our license years are prospective instead of retrospective, how we would set the license fee for a future year based on past year revenue, and if they add a machine or take away a machine, that could be a little difficult. So maybe a per machine fee probably is preferable in that aspect.
Or maybe it could be based on the prior year's revenue. I'm just trying to think outside the box to figure out a way.
But as we added additional establishments, it would be difficult to determine what then, that particular fee would be. And if they added a machine or decreased a machine throughout the year, I think that could raise questions about then does the fee need to be adjusted mid-year? So for certainty purposes and for budgeting purposes, it may be better, but we'll see what we can come up with and see if any other municipalities are looking at that.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Councilmember Sear.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to receive and file.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any other discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at regular business. 22-120 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request to approve a resolution amending Resolution Number 18-073-A, setting fees for the Peoria Combined and Sanitary Sewer District, increasing the city's sanitary sewer lateral fee from 1.2735 CCF to 1.3028 CCF, effective May 1, 2022.
Sure.
Thank you. This is the lateral fee portion of your sewer bill. This is the portion that goes to fund our sewer fund and the operations of that. The slight increase, while the council communication said it's $1.75 per quarter, it's actually 50 cents per quarter. So roughly the increase cost is to the homeowners about 16 cents per month that we're looking at with this proposed change.
Any questions for the manager? Can you repeat that?
Council communication said the increase was $1.75 per quarter. It's actually about 50 cents, just over 50 cents per quarter. So the monthly increase for this rate increase would be roughly about 16 cents per month.
Okay. Councilmember Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question, Mr. Manager.
This is not a lot of money, but can you tell us a little bit about all the increases that has happened, let's say, the last 5 or 6 years from Greater Peoria Sanitary District and for the city?
Well, these charges are not for the sewers. That there's a lateral fee for those residents that pay into those lateral sewer or the sewers that are owned by the sanitary district. This is for the portion that's owned by the city of Peoria. It's mostly in the East Bluff and some other areas in the central part of the city that have the sewers that are owned by the city of Peoria. The current rate on a monthly basis, quarterly rate on a monthly basis, for those people that have city sewers, city-owned sewers, are $63.09. For those that have a GPSD sewer, it's about $71.34. So over the last several years, one of the things that we have been working on is we have an agreement that eventually the sewers that we've owned and we've improved, mostly again in the East Bluff area, are going to be transferred over to the sanitary district eventually. One of the things we've been trying to do is raise the lateral fee over time so that there isn't this major sticker shock for those residents of the East Bluff when those sewers get transferred over, and then suddenly their sewer bill goes up by $8 a month. Or $8 a quarter, excuse me, not a month.
I'm sorry I should have called you today for this question, but so do we know what the increase been over the last 6 years, percentage-wise? Do we have any idea?
I'd have to go back and get that answer for you. I can look. We can certainly get it.
Okay. I should have called you first so you would have been prepared, so I apologize for that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve? Oh, you got a question, Councilmember Jensen?
So my question is, what happens if this fails and you don't get the fee increase? Or
well, again, if this fails, eventually you're going to get to a point where we're going to need to put more money into maintenance, and we won't have those funds in the sewer fund to do that. This lateral fee goes for us maintaining those sewers that we own, and that's the reason behind it. So that's all the maintenance work, the cleaning out that we have to do. Our contract with the sanitary district that we have to provide that work is done on those sewers that are owned by the city. So this is the cost of maintenance that we're looking at here for those sewers that the city owns.
Is another follow-up question? Do you know when the last time was that we increased this?
That we brought a rate increase for the lateral fee forward last year that was approved by council. We also had the rehabilitation fee and the CSO fee. We lowered the rehabilitation fee when we established the CSO fee so that there was no impact on the homeowner or the ratepayer. This fee is just, again, it's for maintenance of those city-owned sewers that we have. When we presented that plan to you last year when the CSO fee was established, we identified that this was the plan that we'd be looking at roughly about a $2 increase in this fee over the course of the next several years just for maintenance purposes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by, okay. You got a question, Councilman Kelly?
That's what this means. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Manager, again, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but was there ever a time when there was parity between the city's fee and the sanitary district's fee?
Not in my 11 years of being here. I mean, we've been trying to increase the lateral fee to get it to that point of parity, but we haven't. Just as we're looking at setting those fees to cover the cost of maintenance, the sanitary district is doing the same. Eventually, though, as we transfer these sewers over, they're going to have to go over to the sanitary district, and then that cost for those homeowners will go up $8 a quarter.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes. Is there a motion? Councilmember Sear, are you moving?
No, ma'am, just a question.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Mr. Manager, can you remind us the first tranche of the CSO that last year that was approved by most of my colleagues? What was the
money for, and what was the amount of the first loan, basically?
So the first loan was roughly about $6.7 million. That's been used as we're planning the investment in the area around Lincoln School in the North Valley. That's the area that we are starting the initial CSO work, and our plan is to expand out from there. The Public Works team is currently working on the next phase of that, year 2 of this project, and we'll be continuing to focus probably in those same sewer sheds in that North Valley area for the time being.
But I thought the first tranche was like $15 million. Am I incorrect?
The first year of expenses were about $6.7 million, and then we'll be going back to the IEPA to try and get the second year's loan. I think it's roughly at about $7 million. We're anticipating that over the next 18 years, it'll be roughly about $7 million a year for us to do that work.
But the first tranche was for 3 years, correct? About $15 million.
The first tranche that we asked for, but you have to go back every year to ask to actually apply and get the money. So
But it's a 3-year project, the first tranche.
It was a 1-year project. We were approved for 1 year, and we have to go back each year and ask for that loan again in front of the IEPA.
And for the same interest rate?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, your buttons were not working for a while. There was a little technical problem, and it was the technician. So, Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Manager, is there a tentative sunset on this fee increase that you can forecast for us?
No, sir. This is for maintaining the sewers and paying for the cost of maintenance. And just as we talked earlier, and Councilman Ruckriegel, sorry about that, Councilman Ruckriegel mentioned inflationary costs.
For that.
You're welcome. Just as we have those same inflationary costs in terms of maintenance for maintaining the sewers. So, the question, if you don't approve it, at some point in time, we may come back to you with a 7% or an 8% increase at a future year because we're going to need it in order to maintain these sewers.
So if it doesn't pass tonight, then there won't be any scheduled maintenance, or would you potentially reallocate funds out of our operational budget?
No, we won't take any money out of the operations budget. This would come out of the sewer fund, and it would just mean that we would start to draw down reserves. And eventually, if you're going to get to a point where you continue to draw down reserves, then you won't have funds available to do the maintenance, and we'll come back to you with a request to raise the rates to cover the cost of these improvements.
Thank you.
Welcome. Councilmember Riggenbach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's important for us to remember that what we're asked to vote on tonight is to fund the operation and maintenance of the city-owned sanitary and combined sewers. We're not buying a boat. We're not buying the water company. We talk about these other things that we want to buy and have the city operate, neglecting oftentimes the operation and maintenance of what those things cost. We want to turn this over to the Greater Peoria Sanitary District. We have to bring it up to a certain standard for them to accept that. Believe me, I know firsthand from last year's election how you get pounded on stuff like this, but to me, it's even more damning of a council to neglect the operation and maintenance for something that the city owns. Nobody wants to raise a fee. Nobody wants to do this, but as long as we own the sanitary and combined sewers, we are responsible to take care of it. So I will move for the approval, even though it's a rate increase, but that's the cost of the city owning the sewer system. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. More discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 3 nays, Seer, Euler, and Reckriegel. Madam Clerk?
22-121 is a communication from the city manager and the community development director with a request to receive and file a report regarding non-owner occupied registration.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you. Director Doolin is here to talk about the report back, and I'd like to turn the floor over to him. Director.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Manager. So this is the second go-around, I think, at the report back that we originally discussed a few council meetings ago. I just added some additional background information that we were able to find specifically around the non-owner occupied registration. The question that was proposed, I think, was the effect that the registration and inspection program had on rental conditions and properties throughout our community. I thought it was important to point out that the history of the registration requirement and inspection requirement, noting that we still have under the current system a registration component, but we don't have an inspection component. Staff was cut back in the early 2000s that specifically was dedicated to that rental inspections component. Completely stopped doing proactive rental inspections in 2011 with the staff we have, and we just don't have the current staff to be able to get back to that program. So staff couldn't technically answer, I think, the question of the outcome of both programs throughout the 27 years it's been in place, because half of the program hasn't actually been funded to see what the outcome would be. But going back through the history of the discussions from 1989 and 1994, when the issue was originally brought up, there was a clear distinction between the registration and the inspection part of it, with the registration discussion specifically to get better communication between city staff and landlords, to have contact information for landlords when there are issues at the properties. So in that program, I believe that the success still exists, and we have used technology advances since 1994 to add better communication, whether through text and email, that landlords can sign up when they have issues at their property. So that information is all included in there. Despite us not having a proactive rental inspection program that obviously is a best practice of communities across the country, to some degree, if the funding and staff allows it to occur, we have done a lot of things within the Community Development Department to try to alleviate not having the resources to be able to do a proactive rental inspection program. We've developed fairly positive relationships with our landlord community to communicate issues when they come up. We've expanded our relationship with local legal aid services to ensure that when tenants are having issues with their landlord, they know who to call and to get help. We've improved our notification system, like I mentioned. So I think we have made a lot of positive steps in place of the rental inspection program to alleviate some of the issues that exist because we aren't proactively getting inside rental properties. So happy to answer any questions about the report back as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Director Doolin. I thought your report was excellent, very comprehensive. Once again, it didn't answer my question, but I don't know that my question can be answered. I don't know that we have the data to answer my question. My request was, what was the state of rental properties in Peoria in 1995 when we began this, and what is the state of those properties today? And let's see if this program has made a lot of progress with rental properties in our city. I think all of the things that the department has done have been very constructive and very helpful. It is unfortunate that we take the rental registration fees happily, but we cut the inspections. So where does that fee go? Well, it goes into the general fund, and all that money is fungible. So, but I'm still hopeful. And I would like to take the time between this meeting and next, or perhaps this meeting and 2 subsequent meetings, to meet with Director Doolin, with others in the community, and with anyone on the council who'd like to hop in and see if we can devise some programs which might end up working better at improving our rental properties. It is my opinion that the main problem in some of our older neighborhoods with rental properties are not really landlords. It's a really poor economic environment. And many of these landlords are reacting to that poor economic environment. Many of our so-called slum landlords also have properties elsewhere in the city, and they're very nice properties. And once again, they are reacting to the economic realities of that other property. So one of the things I'll be wanting to do is try to figure out ways to improve the economics for rental properties in some of our more challenged neighborhoods. And I think we can get at that. But at this point in time, I'm not prepared to offer anything, but I would move to receive and file this report. Thank you.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Jensen. Continued discussion, Councilwoman Jensen.
Thank you, Mayor Ali. First, I wanted to thank you, Director Doolin. This is an excellent report, and you did a good job with all the history. So I thank you for your work. In response to Councilman Kelly's request for that data, the legal department did find the case that I was referring to, and they sent me a copy of the summary judgment motion, which we did, and the memorandum, but they didn't yet get a copy of all the exhibits, and there's like, I think, 100. And in those exhibits is where all the data is that you've been requesting. So if you still want that, she's planning to order the file. Additionally, when Judge Mim entered his order on that case, upholding the rental registration and inspection program, in the first couple of pages of his order, he actually summarizes the data and the status of the rental properties in Peoria that justified the adoption of that ordinance. So that too, it's actually a very good summary of all the evidence that he was presented. So I think it would be helpful. I can send you a copy of that order too that I just found on Google Law. So anyway, thank you, and I'd be happy to work with you on those issues as well.
Okay. It was interesting reading, historical reading, to see names like Councilman Ledoux, Corporation Counsel Collier, Councilman Glover, I mean, it's quite a while ago. Council Member Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to echo some of the sentiments of Councilwoman Jensen and Mr. Kelly. I was just kind of curious. You mentioned we have cut inspections. When that happened, how much money did the city, how much money were we saving? What was the cost for that? Do you, sorry, you probably don't have the figure available.
We've adjusted staffing levels multiple times throughout the years to get, I think, in the 2022-2023 budget was the first time in many years that we actually added code enforcement staff back, and we're at the highest level we've been in the last probably since 2012 or 2013. So it kind of just depends which level we're discussing when we cut down and the staff that we had at the time.
Okay, but we still don't know how much. I just was trying to get a handle on the benefit, the cost benefit for getting rid of inspections. And now, you say we do have a few more inspectors, but obviously, they are doing a lot more paperwork and more work that they probably have ever done. So I was just kind of curious as to the benefit of all of this, because quite honestly, I know their hands are full, but I've seen in some areas in and around my district, I've just been appalled at some of the conditions that people, landlords rent properties to people, and I'm just, without an inspections department, it's just kind of mind-boggling sometimes to know that some of these properties, many are being rented in the conditions that they're in. I've asked people, why would you even rent a property like this when you've got, leaky roof and all kinds of code violations? I was just kind of curious.
I think that's a very important point to point out, that we don't do proactive inspections, but what we've really tried to do the last 5 or 6 years is just to continue to engage as much as we possibly can with organizations, neighborhood associations. There's sometimes a mistrust of city government by residents, and trying to bridge those gaps by building relationships with nonprofit organizations. Because if we can be made aware of the issue that exists, we can get in to help you facilitate and hold your landlord accountable for those issues. We have an excellent relationship with Prairie State Legal Services. They're often making recommendations to us because residents often feel more comfortable going to them first. But just to echo what you said, any residents who's listening to this or has an issue, please call our office. While we are not proactively looking at all the rental properties, anytime we get an issue, we respond usually that day if it's a life safety issue, such as no heat or no water or some other things. And we do hold the landlords accountable for those. I think one of the programs that the city has that we're most proud of is our rehousing program that we launched a few years ago due to a large criminal housing management ticket at an apartment complex in Peoria. Before that, staff was in a really tough place where if they posted a house occupancy prohibited, the tenants didn't have any place to go. So you had staff that were very compassionate for those situations, and we didn't have the resources. We'd have to connect them to our nonprofit community who did a fantastic job, but sometimes then didn't have the ability to recoup those funds through landlords. So what we did is we have a rehousing program that we still have available. If a tenant, through no fault of their own, becomes displaced because of the negligence of their landlord, we have a housing coordinator. It used to be done by Salvation Army, but now we'll do it in-house by our housing coordinator, who will work to find them somewhere else to live, to go, pays for them to be in a hotel while we're doing it. And then the city has the ability to try to recoup those costs from the landlord, where our nonprofit community doesn't have. So the biggest message I can send to anyone listening who has those same concerns is, if you are experiencing a situation where you're living somewhere, first contact your landlord, let them know something's going on. Give them the opportunity to correct it. But if they don't, you have a right to live in safe housing, and call the city, and we have a fantastic group of inspectors who will make the time to go out as quickly as possible. And any organizations that are listening that want us to come to talk to their organizations to create more engagement opportunities and more partnerships for us to have in the community, we're happy to do that as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam.
You're welcome. Councilmember Velperla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Director Doolin, for your comprehensive report. I assume that the statistics that you produced in the second page wouldn't have changed much even today. So I see that the non-owner occupied properties represented 59% of all code violations. Just have a clarification question. Would you think mapping these serious offenders, bringing them, counsel them, educate them, would reduce any violations? Like mapping the area of those people, I mean.
Yeah, so, I think Councilman Kelly and I had a very good discussion today about some of the issues and kind of what's causing this. And I think, we talked a lot about I think we've addressed one of the issues. So a lot of poor rental conditions, I think based on the American Rescue Plan in the qualified census tract areas. And I think one of the big things that's caused that the last 5 or 10 years that we've hopefully are on our pathway to addressing is the county trustee auction process. Unfortunately, people in the past could purchase these houses for $1,000, $1,500, and then I think they did that as an investment. They might have had good intentions, but they didn't have the money to reinvest back into the property to bring it up to code. Last year, we, for the first time since we've been here, we were able to work with the county treasurer who sits as part of our land bank to really get ahead of that more than we've ever in the past. She connected us. They run the county trustee process with the county trustee. We were able to pull about 45 houses directly from the auction that needed to be demolished. And had we not pulled them from the auction, someone could have purchased them to maybe fix up, but maybe just stick a tenant in and start collecting rent. So I think, we've stopped that from going forward, and part of that is the Land Bank Initiative. Part of that is the Land Bank Initiative and a willingness of our county treasurer to help us help Peoria neighborhoods. And I think, if we did map out a lot of where these problems and concerns are happening, you unfortunately do see it in neighborhoods with weaker markets. So, unfortunately, in our older neighborhoods.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you, Director Doolin.
I do just would like to thank Stephanie and Courtney and their help for putting together the report. They did a lot of help with the historical documents for me, so I wanted to make sure to publicly acknowledge that as well.
It was fun to read. Thank you. We have a motion to receive and file. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at unfinished business. 22-105 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with recommendation from staff with no recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission to adopt an ordinance amending existing special use ordinance number 9126 as amended in a Class R3 single-family residential for church facilities to rebuild the sanctuary building and new bell tower for the property located at 10811 North Knoxville Avenue, Peoria, Illinois.
Mr. Manager?
Staff is working currently with the diocese, and we would respectfully request a 2-week deferral.
Okay. Councilmember Sear?
I was going to make the same motion, so I'll second.
Okay.
I don't know if Mr. Manager is allowed to make a motion.
Okay. Seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any other discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at new business.
Any new business items? We'll start with Councilmember Riggenbach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think most of my colleagues got an email this week regarding the IDOT project that involves rebuilding the intersection at Knoxville and War Memorial. Just to give you a little bit of background on that, about a year ago, IDOT put together a CAG, a Citizens Advisory Group, to give them feedback on that project. And actually, the part of the project that's currently funded is the actual corridor from Pennsylvania up to the intersection. So there is money in the IDOT transportation plan for that work. They're still coming up with possible alternatives for that cross-section. As you can imagine, that goes from a very narrow section of street. If you look at the area just south of McClure, for instance, and then there's much more right-of-way as you go north of Forest Hill. So it's going to be a test their engineering skills. Unfortunately, the intersection itself, which is one of the most deadly intersections in the city and the most dangerous by far, there is no funding in place at this time, but that didn't stop IDOT from presenting 3 different proposals recently to the CAG. And 2 of those proposals, believe it or not, include overpasses at this intersection in the heart of the city. 25-foot walls of concrete going up with ramps and whatnot, and even what they described as a dog bone roundabout. So needless to say, the residents were not too pleased with that. I think the consensus of the CAG was no way. The third proposal would be a more traditional intersection, but the way our engineering friends presented it, they would expand War Memorial to 6 lanes, 3 lanes in each direction, add turn lanes on Knoxville, which I think most of us would say is a reasonable approach. But anyway, that also would include the demolition of some rather historic properties. Let me assure you, Councilman Graham and I have our pulse on this, and I think we haven't talked to all of you about it, but it seems a little preposterous what they're proposing up to this point. There's another meeting of the CAG tomorrow, and there have been a number of emails going back and forth to IDOT from CAG members, as well as myself and Councilman Graham, just expressing our desire to go back to the drawing board, if you will. I just want you to be aware of that there's no construction planned for next year. Even the corridor, the intersection, or the road that has the money allocated, there's no corridor plan, so that's still probably 4 or 5 years away before any shovels are turned. So we'll keep you in the loop as that progresses, but I just wanted to clarify that there is a lot more discussion to be had, and many people, many of us on that committee share the sentiment of the email writer, even though some of the specifics were a little bit off. Then, if I may, Madam Mayor, I was reminded tonight, we were reminded that we were remiss in recognizing our Community Development Department for Community Development Week. This is a national recognition that started in 1986 when it is in an effort to bring recognition to the CDBG program throughout the country. The federal funding that we get from the CDBG allows the city to, I'm reading this, I'm not making all this up as I go.
Sounded good.
It helps provide roofs for residents, emergency repairs when needed, wheelchair ramps for residents with access needs, and also provides direct funding for affordable housing through our city and many of the partners that we have. Personally, I think we all recognize, and Director Doolin, we just gave you kudos for the incredible work you did on that report back, but your entire department deserves a salute tonight, and particularly Catherine Murphy and the Grant Division for administering all these programs that come to us through CDBG. if you'd like to meet some of these folks firsthand, now this is my personal plug, they're sponsoring another community cleanup, and this one will be in the 3rd District. I'm kicking off at the East Bluff Community Center on Thursday at 3:30, and the Community Development Department really practices what they preach, and they get out there and help clean up and beautify our neighborhood. So I know a lot of them will be out there, so Director Doolin, please express our gratitude as we celebrate National Community Development Week with you and all of your staff. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We were graced a little bit earlier in our meeting. I thought he would still be here with Chris Kergard. Chris Kergard has been with Journal-Star for, I forget how many years he told me, but anyway, he's been a political reporter, and I think most of us know him and have interacted with him, and I always thought he was very good, and he didn't let too many things slip or slide, but he was, I think, a very fine reporter at the Journal-Star. And you may have seen in today's paper that he's moving on to the Dirksen Center in Pekin. And I think we should all wish Chris the best of luck and thank him perhaps on behalf of our city of reporting to our citizens what's been going on here, and I think we should be appreciative. So best of luck to Chris Kergard. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodrigo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This would be for the city manager, and I guess a request to bring back, I don't want to say report because I think we need an action item. I think you have been in communication with myself and with some constituents on, we can call it panhandling in the middle of the streets. And I know that, and I respect the fact that in the update and email we got that there are some legal things that we may not be able to do. But I'm going to be really honest. This is not, and we have got to take this seriously because we are going to get somebody killed. I've got picture after picture after picture that I've taken that have been sent to me on people who are on 14 inches of median in our major intersections. Some sitting on chairs in the middle with a couple of bags out there. I cannot believe that we have taken a full effort to be able to remedy this situation. We as a community are a very giving community. We have a wonderful social network. We have a great 211, which is able to provide services. We've got a great police department that's working together. We've got good mental health services. But I look at some other communities that are in Illinois, they do not have this problem. They are having the conversation and finding ways to be able to do this. And I get that we're being told it's a freedom of speech, and so we cannot interact on that. We have got, and it's very interesting because after that first constituent that contacted us, I don't know what happened, but it seemed like everywhere I've gone since then, people have brought this up. We've got people who are scared because their cars are being hit, windows are being hit on at intersections along War Memorial Drive. I've got pictures here where along War Memorial Drive, a guy is sitting on 12 inches of concrete and his legs are in the first third of the turn lane. And he's having to pull them in between every car. Either we care about our residents enough to get them off of the streets in the middle of intersections, and we see the same faces day in and day out at the intersections. This is not a random one and done. And it's also not in a certain part of town. There is somehow transportation out to various intersections on a scheduled basis. And so I would like a report back on
what is the true nature of what is going on and how we as a city are going to protect our individuals who are being placed in these positions and also our residents. We're going to have somebody get hurt because they're in the middle of an intersection, or we're going to have somebody who is going to have to live the rest of their life knowing they've hurt somebody who's been in the middle of an intersection. Either of those scenarios is not good for us. And we can go to other communities. They do not have this problem. We have talked about it for years. We decide not to act on it because we don't want to disrupt other people who may be using it as a fundraising sources. We need to protect our people. So I would like to have a report back and an action item on what we do about this in the next 2 weeks. I appreciate your time on this. I know that it's a difficult situation because legally, we are exempted from maybe doing certain procedures. But I'll go back. It's amazing that in Springfield in December of this past year, we can take up an ordinance change on licensing of gaming machines. And yet we have a problem here that does affect a life, and we are limited by what we can do. So somehow we've got to get some help. Thank you.
And just to follow up on that, I share those sentiments conveyed by Councilmember Ruckriegel, and I think that we need some level of ordinance council that addresses this issue. I don't know all the ins and outs of the laws that prohibit us from, removing or warning, but we have to have something with some teeth in it to address this issue. And just on the way here today, I saw what you described in terms of people sitting down in the middle of the intersection with their feet in parts of the curbing. So it's a problem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'd love to be able to work with you on this because I think
We both have the same sentiments on that. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Earlier today, we gave a proclamation in honor of Child Abuse Awareness Month. And sticking with that trend, I just want to promote an upcoming event that is this Saturday, sponsored by the Pediatric Resource Center. It is our 10th annual Kick Abuse 5K trail and fun walk. And all the proceeds go towards preventative and also some reactionary child abuse efforts that the Pediatric Resource Center does. So if you are looking to combat this and be a part of this, but you're trying to figure out what's the best strategy, this is a great way to get involved and to help combat child abuse, which we all can agree is a terrible, terrible trend that's happening right now in our society. Thank you.
Welcome. Councilmember Jensen?
Thank you, Mayor Ali. I just wanted to follow up on the issue related to panhandling, because I also, with Councilman Ruckriegel, brought this forward a few weeks ago, saying we've got to do something more, and would ask the city manager, since we're talking about it, if you can talk briefly about what you've directed the police to do with regards to stepping up enforcement, at least using what we have now to be able to put a stop to it and to make things more safe. If you would just briefly talk about that.
Any other new business? Oh, Mr. Manager?
Just briefly, we have asked the police department to move people out of the medians when they see them standing there. We're also looking at putting up some signage talking about how panhandling is unsafe in those medians. I think that the Corporation Council sent everyone a very detailed memo that talks about the legal challenges that we have. This has been ruled to be free speech. And regulations and ordinances that regulate free speech have been struck down by the Supreme Court. We struck down our panhandling ordinance because of that, because it had been ruled in other communities. A similar ordinance was ruled unconstitutional. So that's some of the challenges that we face with trying to regulate panhandling in the city. So the police department is aware. The chief has spoken to his officers and his lieutenants about this, and we're going to continue to try and move people to a safe location where they can legally panhandle, which is at the corners. The intersections and in the medians is in the middle of the median is not a safe location. So.
When there are panhandlers that are pounding on cars and really disturbing the peace and making, there are a number of situations that have occurred, especially in one intersection on the West Bluff. Can you talk about what the city can do even without the panhandling ordinance and what we have done?
If there is, physical contact between somebody that is doing solicitation and it's either physical contact or their conduct is alarming and disturbing somebody that's either walking by or in a car, there are ordinances and state statutes that they can be ticketed for. Maybe it's assault, maybe it's battery, maybe it's disorderly conduct. It would obviously depend on the nature of the conduct. But when those types of situations occur, there are already ordinances and statutes on the books that can help address the situation. It is much more difficult when we're talking about the passive panhandling, where somebody is simply sitting there or sitting there with the sign, for example.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Rodrigo?
City Manager, I appreciate the efforts, and this is nothing against the police department. They're doing a wonderful job at doing what they do, which is keeping us safe as a community. And they have been overtaxed and overwhelmed recently in everything that is going on. So my next statement is not against that, but on the pictures that I've taken in the past week, in every one of those, a police officer has driven by because they have other things to do. Somehow, there has got to be something we can do. I don't know if it's permitting, I don't know, but to sit here and I get the free speech argument, and we can have this every day. But we also know that in those things back, there are things that we can do. If it's permitting or something else, we've got to take action on this. And we cannot put this on just on the police department. They have got other venues that they've got to do. We've got to find a solution that is real to be able to do this. And again, I'm not upset that the police officers did not stop. They've got other things that they've got to be doing. But literally, in every one of these photos that I took myself, a police officer went by. Thank you.
Any other new business? Madam Clerk? Okay, I'm sorry. Was there any other, we skipped unfinished business, but I guess we're past that. So, go ahead.
We are at citizens' opportunity to address the city council, and we do not have any cards. So then we have executive session, adjournment into executive sessions.
We don't have a card. Did you fill out a card? What's your name, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. My name is Diana Gutman, and I really appreciate all of the comments tonight regarding our city. My husband and I, we moved here from Portland, Oregon, just about a year ago now, and it's beautiful. We love this city so very much, and You've spoke on so many things that have pulled on my heartstrings, and to stay on topic regarding the panhandling, I do agree that this is a safety matter on both ends. When people are involved, there's two sides, and both sides deserve a right to feel heard. And with panhandling being free speech, when people feel misunderstood, not heard, or listened to, it's our human nature to keep expressing ourselves until we finally feel heard. And, our law enforcement team has a lot of things that they do to take care of our cities and the people who reside here in Peoria. And I believe that this might be an opportunity to exercise peace officers and to cultivate and grow our community partners that aid with people who are homeless and on the streets, and potentially putting in a team or a service that would be able to do these patrols without dehumanizing the person that is in the most uncomfortable situation of their life. Because when this meeting is adjourned, we get to go to a place that we can call home. But there are other people, friends that I have made since I have lived here, who don't have a home. One person particularly that I ran into last week, I encountered her 2 other times. She is a consistent panhandler, and when I first met her, she struggled so hard, saying that she just landed here around the same time as us, and she has been trying to figure things out, and each time she feels defeated when going to get help and not knowing how to exercise a voice that is tired. And so I think that instead of teeth, we need a gentle touch. And I really appreciate all of the care and raised concerns for our constituents, especially considering that we started it off with the Construction Awareness Month, where going through construction zones, people who are on the streets working for our city and helping make it a beautiful place are also at a vulnerable risk. And, even though the situations are different between these 2 groups of people, they're both equally at risk. And we need to work together because community safety is a community effort. And so I propose putting together a task force to create a team that would be able to give this gentle touch to this very serious situation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Council?
We have executive session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120-2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or performance of a specific employee, 2C11 pending litigation, and 2C21 closed session minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn, go into close? Moved by Councilwoman Jensen, seconded by Councilman Euler. Please cast your ballots. Jackson, Councilwoman Jackson. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.